Hey y'all. So guess what time it is? Well, if you here with me, it must be 7:30 on a Wednesday night because this is Natalie Sugar Brown, okay? And we here to talk about women's boxing. Yes, I am Natalie Sugar Brown, and my show tonight, the Natalie Sugar Brown Show, is the platform that I use to talk to all of you guys about the authentic experience and life of a female boxer or a woman boxer, which I am, right? Had some good days at the office, had some bad days at the office. But you're going to hear the real deal when you're talking sugar. All right, so tonight, y'all, waiting for some of my people to chime in, my misfits to chime in. But tonight, we talking about the turn up to come up, and I always like my titles. Like you can really never tell what my titles are going to mean because I don't know. It's kind of the same way in boxing, right? We're all characters, okay? So the turn up, the come up, we kind of talk in rhymes, or we'll talk in parables, or fighters are always, I don't know, I guess it's a form of verbal combat too, right? So we always kind of fishing, or we always kind of throwing creative ways of saying things out there to see what you bite. Okay, so the turn up to the come up. Why? Because I'm geeking tonight, y'all. Y'all kind of know why I'm gonna be geeking tonight, right? There was a very, very interesting fight that happened over the weekend on the 7th. Yeah, over the weekend. Chantel Cameron versus Jessica McCaskill, where everyone, it was an important fight, wasn't mega, wasn't super, but it was important. Um, I probably should have had their profiles up, but I really just feel like having a conversation about it, really. The stats and all of that shit really doesn't matter when it comes to this one because um it was just it was the two broads. It was really about the broads, not about their statistics, not about their numbers. Um so we have uh um Chantel Cameron, who is an up and coming beast. Okay, I've mentioned this before about how she's dispatched a lot of fighters, a lot of names and non-names up there. But I like this girl's swagger. I like the way she's doing things. I like the way her team is moving her there because they're moving her legitimately. So the first challenge on this broad skid row that made me put my eyebrows up was when she stepped up to fight an old cold Melissa Hurricane Hernandez. Now, mind you, I said this because I didn't know. I mean, Chantel Cameron wasn't very impressive when she first came out. I'm just gonna say this. Like when she first got on the scene, wasn't very impressive, had great fundamentals, but that's about all she had. You know, she fundamentals meaning she could box. She had a good guard. She dotted her I's and crossed her T's. So her stepping to Hurricane now, I said, well, the last couple crumbs of Hurricane in the ring because Melissa Hernandez had stepped out of the ring for a while. And the thing about Melissa Hernandez is when she steps out of the ring, she blows up in weight. I mean, it is what it is. Some fighters do and some fighters don't. It says nothing, it doesn't say anything about their character. It's just, when you're not in fight mode, I live in fight mode. I think it's just become my it's a lifestyle for me. I don't train as hard as I used to, of course, but Sugar is always like Sugar's out in the streets at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, so I'm still, and not the way, because I know somebody came in on my show um last week with some foulness, not like what you think. So 4:30 in the morning, I'm still out running, I'm still, I still, it's a lifestyle for me. It's what keeps my blood, um I don't know if it's keeps my blood hot or cold, right? Because it just depends on the sugar you get. But some fighters, when they're not in fight mode, they completely step out of it. So they drinking, they partying, they not watching what they eat. And it's not that I watch what I eat. I'm bringing it back to me because, I mean, of course, this is the sugar show. But I I'm bringing it back to me because like I said, it's a lifestyle. I'm a, I'm just a quintessential warrior. Like, don't let the smooth taste fool you. I am a fighter. I am a warrior. Okay, so everything to me as a warrior means something. My friendships mean something. The words I say mean something. The love I give and receive means something. There's just there's a romanticism in being a fighter and being and having that combative lifestyle, and I've embraced it totally. Okay, so when I eat, it's not that I eat, oh, I'm watching my calories or anything like this. I've It's become a lifestyle to where I eat the things um, that makes my body operate a certain way, right? So I eat things that are, um, I guess, uncontaminated. I'm just, I keep it very clean because I from one of my coaches, of course, y'all know I've trained all over the world. And one of my coaches, over there out east, not East USA, out east in the world, Craig, right? Said, and I never forget this. I was a young woman growing up. He says, "You are what you eat," and you hear it a lot, but you don't really understand what it is. So, he says you eat, he says you eat meat, you have strength of that animal. You eat vegetable, do you have this? And then he just kind of explained it to me. And for some reason, it's like it was something that helped me organize what I wanted to be, because I ate for what I wanted to. My food, or what I take into my body, is what projects, or what you see. Okay, so that um so going back to certain fighters, they really don't take it that seriously, and that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Some fighters blow right up, like I said. And when Chantel Cameron now stepped to Melissa Hernandez, Melissa was cold. She was old. She had gotten stale. So she thought, and a lot of us do, and it was. because Melissa Hernandez was a name at like big time. Melissa Hernandez was up and way down. That was the broad to that was going to beat you or step to you. Okay, she your name was King Kong. She was stepping to you. Okay, I love the tenacity of her, and not only do I love the tenacity, I love her performance. Melissa Hernandez, and I should have had the pictures up. I just didn't do it tonight. I'm sorry, y'all. Just wanted to have a conversation. But Melissa Hernandez, look her up. Melissa Hurricane Hernandez was a performer. Okay, win or lose, you wanted to see that broad fight, the way she moved, the things she did, and you can clearly see, she bit off a slice from or she cut a slice from Camacho's cake, but she did it well, okay? And so she mixed Camacho with Belinda La Corriente, which Belinda was I want to call her old school fighter, who she changed the game. Nobody talks about Belinda anymore because Belinda was still around. Belinda stepped to Christy Martin. Belinda was supposed to be a problem for Christy Martin to solve, but what it was with Belinda LaCrente, I think that's how you say her name. Like, y'all know Sugar's bad with names, but I try, I try, I try, I try. So, um, Belinda didn't have no pop in her punches. She couldn't bust a grape, but boy, could she fight. She was going to fight your ass from the beginning to the end. And the thing about it is, you wasn't going to beat her neither, because she had one more trick than a monkey. So you getting in there, she going to show you a monk. She going to show you up like the little monkey you are, stepping in there with her. Yeah. So she mixed those two styles because you could see where there was an influence there. You could see where uh Belinda took her under her wing, and there was some influence there. Now, I tell you, from like just a brush, moment in time, we were both amateurs together. But the tricky part about this one, or the funny thing about this one, is Melissa Hernandez is, I think, about 5'4" or something like that. Melissa Hernandez fought 165 pounds at a tournament, one of the big tournaments, and I remember her getting in the ring and doing her thing or whatever, but it was at 165, and I fought 147 when there was a 147 division in the amateurs. I was the smallest one in the 147 weight division. As a matter of fact, I used to weigh in at 140 all the time. My coach Johnny used to um, insist that I fight 147 when everybody was like, "Why your coach making you fight 147?" Because there was 139 pound division right below, and he he said, no, I don't want you fighting to make no, I don't want you fighting weight. Weight is not your opponent, right? Um, Michael Orr says, you were the smallest, but hit the hardest, slumping these girls out here. Yeah. Hey, Mike. Thanks for coming, chiming in. You're right. I don't know if you heard it or you just know it, but yeah, like a lot of my hi, Michael Orr says, hi, Sugar. A lot of my a lot of my reputation comes from the amateurs, because the amateurs was more like the pros back in my generation, right? That's when you had the bigger competition. That's when all the good fighters were fighting each other. The pro game was non-existent in a sense, right? So you weren't you see how they have platforms now where these girls are fighting at Maddie Square Garden and over there in England. Nobody, if you was fighting underground, or you was fighting, like these you was fighting on the Chitlin circuit, or you there's a whole other world out there for female fighters. So we weren't as popular and known. We were still fighting. So our generation, the generation that I was in as an amateur, is we had the platform. This was when they started. I fought and had got a silver medal in the first women's world championships. And then I went again and fought and got a silver again in the second world championships. Irina Sinetskaya out of Russia was just, they just liked her better because um, first one, yeah, second one in Turkey, I think I got it, but we were in Turkey, right? Anyway, um, yeah. So that's when we had the big platforms, the national Golden Gloves, the USA Boxing Nationals, and all of these tournaments and platforms were all women. We didn't share like how these young broads come, these young wet nose broads coming up now. They're sharing the platforms with the guys, the gentlemen. We had our own thing, which I think is what helped build us and give us um the esteem that we had, right? Because it was ours, it was the women's, it was for us, right? There were many fighting for, oh, equal, why can't we go with the guys? But I was just fine. I was just fine having all of our tournaments and all of our rankings to ourselves, and all of our own section. All of there were wonderful tournaments out there, the Witch Cup. They had a whole bunch of stuff just for us, around the world. And I mean, I don't hear of them now, but it was just a wonderful, it was just a wonderful thing for us, in that generation coming up. So I was there with Melissa Hernandez. And so then Melissa turned pro, and I right shortly after I think I turned pro, and it was around the same time. I turned pro because at that point I was married. I became a mommy. Y'all don't know this, but I was 300 pounds. And I think I came down to like 160. And then, I insisted with my husband at the time that I wanted to get back in the ring, even though it didn't seem like he wanted to. Well, it's not even seem. He didn't want me fighting. And so he backed out of the deal, even though he told me he would, I'll be there for you, yeah, after you have the baby. We want to do it together. Some of y'all men talk a good game, but it is what it is, right? So I had to come back on my own, and a lot of people didn't believe in me because I had gone up to 300 pounds and I had a cesarean. I remember when you know a lot of people left me when I decided to have my child. And then on top of that, even more people left after I had him, and they realized or heard that I had a cesarean. Why? Because the cesarean literally slices all your abdominal muscles in half. And as a fighter, if you don't have that, that's like racing a horse with a broken leg. You know what I'm saying? You know what they do to horses with broken legs, right? So if I was a horse, I'd be gone, right? So um yeah, when they found out I had a Michael Orr says they send them to the cannery for dog food. Woo! You know what? I used to hear that when I was when I was little. And you know what they used to tell me too? Um, they used to say that they turned them into corned beef. I know some of y'all eat corned beef out there. I grew up eating corn. I used to love corned beef sandwiches, okay? And I remember one time, well, a couple times, I had a corned beef sandwich for lunch, and somebody told me that that's horse meat. But that was a different that's a different thing. Anyway, um yeah, so when they found out, when people out in the boxing world found out that I had a cesarean, I was done. Dead woman walking, dead in the water. Nobody was interested. And then so, on to the next. And so I know how that feels. Um and for anybody who's down like that in boxing or outboxing out in life, I'm gonna tell you this: bet on yourself, bet on you, right? Because my spin back has been legendary. Okay, for those who know me. But if I had believed what everybody said or what everybody told me, and if I had believed, even the doctor told me, you'll never lose all that weight. You'll never get your body back. You'll have to get plastic surgery. And I never did. If you believe what people want to believe about you, you'll never be your highest self, right? You are put on this planet to, you're put on this planet to make your own story. Okay. So I said that because, especially nowadays, uh, words, what people say about others seem to hold weight. And as a doer, as somebody who does, right? I don't hear and read about or whatever. I'm one of them mofos out there that I do it. I did it. I've done it. Okay? Good and bad, right? I'm not saying that I'm, a saint, but it's my story. And I've achieved some miraculous, amazing things. And and people have believed in me more than I believed in myself at times. You know what I'm saying? But you got to write your own story, and you got to make the decision that you going to believe the hype or you going to make the hype, right? I I grew up kind of tough, right? So I had no choice but to make the hype. I had no choice but to make my own story, because considering the statistics of even my birth, my mom was a teenage, my parents were teenage parents, born, just born loser. I wouldn't be where I am today, right? I wouldn't be who I am today. But I digress. So I came up in those times. Melissa Hernandez, old school fighter, okay? Came up with old school fighters like Belinda LaCrente, and others. Home was Gleason's gym. Then I think she took a couple stints down in Florida with your Bonnie Canino and them. Bonnie Canino is a legend, a old crone women's boxing legend. Okay, look her up. So and so she has been groomed. Melissa Hernandez has been groomed well. Melissa Hernandez, I would consider, is a great fighter. She's a great. She's changed. She changed the game. Um, because she made a lot of. She's the one who started moonlighting in different weight classes and fighting people in different weight classes because it didn't matter. She would just fight anybody, right? People would stick to their own and would only fight certain people. Melissa came out there, and if there was an opportunity, she would take it. A contract came across my table when we first turned pro, but her manager insisted that I go down to 126 pounds to fight her. And I was like, no, boo boo. Um, she ain't that great for Sugar to do that. So that was it as far as that. Um, she moved on, became a great, um, got into the industry really good, had people matching her well. She did an excellent job as a pro. Sugar, ah, they put me on ice, right? They put me on hiatuses. They did these things, but um, I still grew. I still grew. So now when Chantel Cameron decided to step up, she called out this great fighter, Melissa Hernandez. And so me, I was just not, because I'm not convinced about any of these wet nose broads coming out because they are not groomed, right? They have a silver spoon in their mouth, right? They really don't know. They really don't know how hard it is and how hard you got to be out here in women's boxing. They just don't know, right? So when Chantel came, I was like, and Chantel doesn't really have great footwork. She has basic footwork. I said, Hernandez got her. Who does she think she is calling out Hernandez? This great. She's just, she's a green fighter. And she beat Chantel Cameron, beat Melissa Hernandez. Not only did she beat Melissa Hernandez, but she made Melissa Hernandez look like a old lady in there, not an old crone. She made Hernandez look old and stale in there. And I was like, okay, okay, I see you. I see you, right? Because y'all know my take on fighters that are sub 10, women boxers who are sub 10. I'm not paying you no mind, right? So I believe she was sub 10 when she fought Hernandez, but she pulled this killer's card and she messed around and won. So you have my attention now, girl. So then, time went by, and I guess she didn't really pique my attention until she came back, and then you see where she's in this super tournament now, right? Her name comes up in this tournament, and I'm hearing, yeah, I'm hearing how she's training and how she's dispatching people in the gym and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, well, let's see how it goes. She got matched up with Mary McGee. Now Mary McGee is a broad, right? She's a broad out here. She's a broad out here that has some seasoning. I do think that she needs to devote herself to better training. She has a lot of talent, but I think her talent has taken her as far as it can. at this point, and now for her to transcend into crone-ship, because I think she's close to that age. I think she's close to 34, 35. She's closer to that age now. She should be in her 30s. Um, she now needs she needs to find a trainer or a camp that's going to um, give her a plan, or help her evolve into that crone, that woman she needs to be in the ring, right? Because talent will only get you but so far in boxing, especially women's boxing right now. And I love how the game is changing. I really do. Um, so Chantel Cameron matches up with Mary McGee, which I think, like I've said before, I think that whole tournament was to rob Mary of her belt, because it was just not fair, the fact that they didn't complete the whole um the tournament, Callie Ray's barely, like, she got hands put on her by Jessica Camara. And then she decided after that that she wanted to be a movie star and back out of the tournament. And, Chantel Cameron, who was the hardest prospect in that tournament, fights Mary and gets Mary's title. And Mary hasn't been on top since. So, not to say write Mary McGee off. Don't write Mary McGee off, right? We all have a fighter's chance. But like I said, Mary McGee now needs to devote herself to a different camp, or find uh, proper training that is going to help her elevate her style and her identity in that ring. So Chantel Cameron beat Mary McGee, and waiting for the opportunity to fight Callie Reyes, and it never came. So a lot of fighters would, sit on the shelf, or they'd get shelved, or all of that stuff. But it seemed like Chantel Cameron's people were were working, like, she got some good people working for her, because first, I heard the first matchup was between her and Natasha Jonas. I think that was the first prospective match. Then Natasha Jonas moved up to middleweight, where Natasha Jonas is doing damn good as a middleweight. Tell you, that's another broad. She's a crone. But that's another one who I like out here, Natasha Jonas. Look her up. Um, so that didn't happen. The opportunity for that didn't happen. And then her next opportunity came, where Jessica McCaskill had realized that, oh, she ain't gonna be able to survive at 147. Right? Which is a conversation I want to have with y'all. And please chime in, y'all. Please chime in about this. So Jessica McCaskill just, became a name, or somebody, after she fought Cecilia Brækhus, and she ended up taking Cecilia Brækhus's all of her belts at 147, right? And I always say this, Cecilia Brækhus, those two fights are actually two fights that I would say Cecilia Brækhus did win. Brækhus did win those fights. But the irony and the karma of it is, her ass got hurt. She got her belts taken. And the reason why it's ironic and the karma is hitting that one is because Cecilia Brækhus reigned in that division 147 for like over a decade. Okay, she paid the bill for all of them belts. People came from far and wide to wherever she was. First, she was with in Germany fighting with Sarlin and them, and then she was over. I think she's out of Denmark or something like that, and she was promoting her own fights after a while. But she was the queen. Okay, everybody knew that you weren't going to get Cecilia's belts. Even when she lost, she was winning. Okay, she been beat up. She been rocked. She been she had it set up where even the ref was helping her fight in there, and nobody was saying anything. Okay, and just out of the blue, Jessica McCaskill, who, Katie Taylor put the beats on her. She got swole up by Katie Taylor, moves up to 147 and not even fighting a preliminary fight before she fights this champion, the 147 reigning champion for like a decade or so, and beats her. And everybody believed this hype. Like, people believed this bullshit, right? That she just came out of nowhere and and beat Cecilia Brækhus and took her belts. The irony is, Cecilia got beat by someone who didn't have a name, right? Because she fought some great fighters. Cecilia Brækhus also got beat after actually winning the fights. Like, she lost, and I know, and I like it. I like it because she got a taste of her own medicine in the very end. That was her comeuppance, right? We call it the turn up, the come up episode. That was her comeuppance, and that was Jessica's come up. But now, right? Topic of conversation is Jessica McCaskill now gets her comeuppance because Jessica McCaskill's team thought that it's old boxing. Like, they thought they think it's women's boxing is like boxing back in the 30s or 50s or whatever. Like, they feel like, or back in Layla Ali's times, them, when if you had the money you could just buy the belt and keep the belt, right, and decide who you'll fight and who you don't fight for years, kind of like what Cecilia Brækhus did as well, right? And it turns out that no, no, you're going to have to fight. No, you're going to have to make these people some money. No, 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 you're going to have, like, you're going to have to really defend these belts at this weight, right? And so she thought moving up to 147, because now all the killers are gone. Tori Nelson, you know, all of them 140-pound threats. Callie Ray's moved down to 147-pound threats. Callie Ray's moved down to 140. Nobody's touching Layla McCarter. No one's even trying to look down that road. Layla McCarter is like the Freddy Krueger of women's boxing, right? She's everybody's nightmare. Nobody's trying to fight her. And they should honor the crone by giving her some ring time now. She's the last of the Mohicans, of the old school women's boxers in this realm and in this weight class where we can all, measure over, old school, against, these newer fighters. Layla McCarter would be a great name on anybody's resume. Anybody right now. If you're the one to put that L on McCarter's record right now. You saying something. Um, so McCaskill realized that her ass is the only one in the ring. She getting these heavy hands put on her, right? Because win or lose, you're at a weight that you don't belong in. Like she started off at when I got the contract to fight McCaskill, they made me come down to 134, right? So you're 135 and all of a sudden you jump up to 147 and you think you can hang, right? The irony in this is she made good people, good names, such as myself, suck down and sacrifice themselves so she can have an advantage. Her team knew how to do that, right? But her team didn't count on what the weight did when you climbed up too, right? Because you're a different fighter. And when you getting heavy hands put on you, you got to be sturdy regardless. And McCaskill doesn't have the footwork to move and she doesn't have the skills to deflect shots and to really stand in there in these higher weights. So her ass was feeling it. Even when she fought Candy Wyatt in them and the last one, Alvarez that she fought, who quit, but she needed to if she had finished that fight, she still would have done herself some justice, Alvarez. But she realized in those two fights, because those two opponents weren't even top class contenders at 147, she realized that these punches hurt. Oh shit. This this is very uncomfortable. Oh, right? Win or lose, you getting that ass whooped. You getting that ass beat on, right? I remember after I fought Jessica McCaskill, her trainer, I think they call him Rick, he likes to troll fighters after they fight, or he likes to troll other fighters. So I know this was him. And he came on one of my fan pages and messaged me and he was like, did Jessica's punches hurt? And at first I answered as if a fan would have asked me, right? So I answered, uh, Jessica McCaskill, she's very strong. I underestimated myself in losing weight and being able to sustain fight the damage of fighting a strong fighter at that weight, giving them, trying to respect the person that sent the message and asked. And he came back, he said, but how did her punches feel? Did her punches hurt? So I said, oh, so you trolling. So I said, I'm not gonna to the person, yeah, which was Rick, her boyfriend. Like, I kind of that's just gross too. Like, can you imagine? Because that relationship is over now. How Chantel Cameron did her. Chantel beat her ass from post to post in that damn ring. She did y'all watch the fight? They haven't even put it out yet, just to let y'all know. Maybe McCaskill people them got enough money to keep that fight a secret, but Chantel beat that ass. Okay. And so yeah, this is where we are in the conversation. Y'all please, and then all the trolls out there, find Jessica's coach's um social media and please ask him to ask Jessica how them punches felt. I think I saw Cameron hit her with a couple body shots, had her doing the hokey pokey and turning her ass around in the ring. I was like, oh shit, that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? Um, so, I'm rambling, but I just wanted to be detailed about talking about this match because I'm fixing to go in. I'm about to go in. So, Jessica McCaskill as a fighter, there's no humility there. With her coming into the game and how she came into the game, she has no humility. She knows what her team does. She knows how she got her belts, and there's still no humility in her in her being. She gets some opportunities to comment on fights. This broad don't know how to fight, and now she's a commentator on fights, and she's talking. She has an opinion about other fighters who are fighting out here. Everybody in women's boxing calls her Jessica McNoskill, right? So I'm going to say this: she really is not a skillful fighter. But if you're fighting her at a weight that she's strong at, McCaskill is very strong. Okay, and if you can withstand a strong fighter who's just windmilling, and you don't have, your fact, you don't have a plan together, she's gonna beat you. Okay, so I'll give her that. My corner and my team at that time was on some bullshit. I said it. There was one guy, a part of my team, who actually cared, but I digress. We'll get into, women fighters, and really find how they find their right team, because, you know as a fighter, male and female, you you move through life, and your journey doesn't end with the same people, as you go through your career, through your fighting life and your boxing life, right? So there's times that you have great people around you, and then there's times that you have some real bullshit, and you got to make the best of it. But it's really up to you to keep going and keep believing in yourself, and I encourage you to do that. Anyway, this fight now, Jessica McCaskill versus Chantel Cameron. Now, when Chantel decided to take McCaskill on, I was like, yes, yeah, yeah, this needs to happen. Why it needs to happen? Because, the 140 pound McCaskill, like I said, she has no humility. So she said, this is what this broad said: it's easy. She said, it's easy to hold all the belts in one weight class. So I want to win other weight classes. So her punk ass goes down. If it's so easy, then you move up, right? So people called her on her little stupid statement, and then she started calling out Clarissa Shields. And it's like, you barely got past Katie Taylor. How are you thinking that you going to fight and do nothing with Clarissa Shields? But there were actually people out here entertaining it, because a majority of people don't know shit about women's boxing. They don't. And a fighter like Jessica McCaskill, who paid her way through and got this far, really, was actually somebody who, um, the outsiders thought represented women's boxing, which for the most part, and in women's boxing, she doesn't. We don't mess with Jessica McCaskill like that. I said it. I said it, right? And other other broads and crones will speak it. She don't represent us, right? Clarissa Shields represents us, even though, Clarissa, not all of us like Clarissa, right? But we do respect her and her skill set and what she's done enough for her to represent us, right? Along with, a lot of other women now. Jonas, even Katie Taylor. You know, people will acknowledge track star ass Katie Taylor and say yes, she represents us. Yes, she represents us well. You know, Estrada. You know, all of them, but not no Jessica McCaskill. You will not hear another female fighter, another female boxer, woman boxer say, "Oh yeah, um, yeah, I want to fight like McCaskill," or yeah, she can, she's good. You're not gonna hear another legitimate women boxer say that. Uh, no, I would even say Baumgardner represents us. Michaela Meyer represented us, even though she was a little punk ass, right? But that girl, they were still good fighters. McCaskill clearly paid her way. She win, you know, and you could see it, right? And then her team played the game where they did they stalked her opposition, or they stalked her opponents and picked them, right? So it wasn't really an organic climb like that of Chantel Cameron. So Chantel Cameron is now undisputed junior welterweight champion. So at 140 pounds, like I said, beat McCaskill ass from post to post, had her looking like Frankenstein on his heels in there. It's a glorious fight to watch. I love it. That fight is right up there with Shanicia Estrada beaten Marla Esparza's ass. Yeah, it's one of those. It's just it's great. Curl up with a cup of hot cocoa, or and watch it on a brisk morning, or you know what I'm saying. Curl up with your bay or your Netflix and chill, buddy, and a box of pizza and some good drinks and whatever else that makes y'all feel randy, and just watch a great ass whooping go down, right? So now Chantel Cameron is the undisputed junior welterweight champion. That's at 140. Okay. And then she's starting to say, well, since I'm the 140 undisputed champion, I wouldn't mind going up to 147 and giving Jessica McCaskill a rematch for her 147 belts. Except now, I know y'all I know y'all watched my episode called Belts and Bodies, and I hope y'all are paying attention out here, okay? Now, unless they're making exceptions, a fighter such as Jessica McCaskill, who decided to go down in weight and fight a champion of another weight class in another division for titles, will lose and be stripped of their titles in their own weight division, because if they lose, because they left their crown or they left their throne to go down. Okay, so McCaskill must have thought that her money was longer than Chantel's, but what she doesn't realize is she had enough time. If she had made those sanctioning bodies a little bit of money during that time that she had the belts, I think it's going. How long is it going on for her to that she has had Cecilia's all of Cecilia's belts, right? I think it may be going into year 2 of that. Okay, so she's had those belts for a while, and she hasn't made any hype about them on them, and she hasn't made any money on them, right? She hasn't fought any high end opposition. She hasn't done anything to convince these sanctioning bodies that she's going to put more money into their pockets other than just paying the bill. Okay. Now, Chantel Cameron comes up and she's a younger prospect. That's number one. Number two, she's out of UK. UK's money is longer and stronger than US money, which is where McCaskill is right now. That Chicago money or that Puerto Rican money that you got behind you. She tried to talk about she's a Mexican American fighter. Bitch, please. They don't know you down there and they not claiming you, right? But they were trying everything to get that money or get them pennies together so they can pay them sanctioning bodies. But it's just not working, and she doesn't have the personality for it. And her trainer and I think fiance and coach, he's a creep, right? So nobody really like how you going how you he got the spit slapped out of him by another um like a man slapping you. Rick got the spit slapped out of his mouth by another manager, uh, popular manager in women's boxing out in England, out in UK, right? Like that's how much of a creep you are that a grown ass man had to open his hands, open all five fingers, and come across your face. You know what I'm saying? He he bitch slapped you, right? Because I guess you he fit the dynamic, right? So now you really don't have the leverage, Jessica McCaskill, to come back. You don't have the leverage to keep people interested. And Chantel Cameron, who has been moved fantastically, who has great performance in that ring, and who played with you like a cat playing like a friggin' cat playing with not even a cat playing with a mouse, because a mouse sometimes has a chance. She I don't even she whooped Jessica ass like grandma when you trying to get out of going to church. Whooped her ass. There was no place safe in that ring for Jessica McCaskill versus Chantel Cameron. Watch the fight. It's lovely. Um, so saying that to say this. Now, moving up, Chantel Cameron, I'm gonna tell you this. Those belts are going to be stripped from your girl if they play by the rules, because they're supposed to play by the rules, right? They're supposed to strip Jessica McCaskill of those 147-pound belts. But who gonna pay the bill, right? But this is where Sugar's here to make sure receipts are come up right. Okay, Sugar's here to make sure receipts are checked, right? Sugar is the only person who has the authentic understanding and information of women's boxing that's going to tell you the truth, that's going to tell you an intelligent um, analysis of what's going on and not guessing what's out here, but and be and just be real with y'all. Why? Because I have no loyalty but to the truth. I'm not trying to be friends with any of these bitches out here, any of these sanctioning bodies, any of these bras, any of these crones. I'm gonna tell it like it is, right? And I'm gonna do it respectfully. I'm gonna do it respectfully, but yeah, ain't nobody ever bought I mean, I've been offered, I've always had offers to buy this ass, but you ain't going, Sugar ain't, was never and ain't never going to be for sale. Okay. So, saying that to say this, Chantel Cameron is a great prospect. I love that she's undisputed 140-pound champion. If things happen the way they're supposed to happen, Jessica McCaskill should be stripped of her titles at 147 because she vacated. She technically would have to vacate, or she'd have to do something to go down and fight for titles outside of her weight class, right? Because she didn't, like, you can't play those games. She lost. Doesn't work like that, right? So 140, the 147 division is there for the taking, right? It all depends on who's willing to dip down or go up to it, which makes it even more interesting because I told you that this middleweight division is hot now, and now 147 is up for grabs. It's looking great. Okay. Now, I even hear Delphine Pursoon is fighting somebody out there, but I'm not sure. I think they're staying at 135. Delphine Pursoon, hey girl, hey girl. I think you should go up to 140 and fight Cameron because Katie Taylor ain't the skillip no more. Okay? I'll tell you a story about that term because Sugar makes up words. I do. I had to. Um, I I'm I come from a time where you had to be very respectful to adults. My grandmother didn't play that. My family don't play that, right? So you don't make fun of adults. And I had this uncle who used to be like, if he saw something and it was good or whatever, he'd be like, "Yeah, that's the skid it." He used to be like, "Yeah, that's some good skid it," right? So we would make fun of him behind his back. But the way I thought I was being slick was I'd say, instead of saying skid up, I'd say skillip. And now it's a word that's been stuck in my language ever since I was like, what, 11 years old. So when I say skillip, that's to my old unc who used to say, if something's the shit, it's the skid up. Now it's the skillip. So I done remixed it. So yeah, 147, Delphine Pursoon, you fighting outside. Move on from Katie Taylor because she ain't gonna give you the rematch. Fight Chantel Cameron. I think you can, and I think you're strong enough to be a contender at 140 and 147. Try it. Try it. You might like it. It's up for it's up for grabs, right? Because Chantel Cameron, I I like her. I am sold on her, but that doesn't mean that I don't want nobody to try her, right? Because that seat on top, that undisputed seat, should never be comfortable. That's the most uncomfortable seat on the throne, that undisputed. Okay? So if they ain't fighting and ain't nobody stepping to them and challenging them, it ain't working the way it's supposed to be working. Okay? Um, so going to this 147, I think like I said, Katie Taylor ain't the skillip no more, right? She ain't. After she fought Amanda Serrano, and then I think she fought somebody else. Like now it's because now it's like, oh, she fought, oh, she won, right? Okay, next. Like nobody's really excited about watching Katie Taylor. Everybody's more excited about what's happening in the junior welterweight right on up to the middleweight division, and what these new uh contenders and these new champions are going to do to make the pot bubble even more, and make the, you know sweeten the pot, right? So that's where we are right now. There's a lot of matchups that I would just love to see. Like I said, Pursoon, get in that mix. um Now they talking about Natasha Jonas calling or saying she'll take uh, Clarissa Shields. Well, there ain't nowhere else to go but down, Clarissa, because there's no big girls out there that's making any noise, and you're not trying to. It looked like y'all trying to blackball Raquel Miller, right? Who's a contender out there that can make some hype, right? But y'all not trying to give her no. Y'all not trying to share none of this money out here with her. So I don't know. Like she's moving into the latter years of her crone-ship, and she might end up just missing the boat. Who else? They say Shanizia Estrada is trying to go for undisputed. But the thing about it is, the turn up to come up about being undisputed is these broads gotta have somebody to fight. We don't give a shit how many belts you got. Like us people who really care about women's boxing and are really impressed by women's boxing, right? It's not about the belts because we know you paid the bill for those. It's who are you fighting? What does your skid row look like? I'm not excited about you owning belts. I could care less about you having belts. And that's what I want everybody to know and understand about women's boxing, right? It's not about the belts. It's not. Anybody can get a belt if you have money. Like there's so many. I went watch it, belts and bodies. There's so many belts out here. There's so many belts out here. The belt doesn't make the champion. The broad makes the belt, right? So we'll put it, the belt don't make the broad makes the belt. So you could have the 7-Eleven Super Circle K belt, but if you a bad bitch and ain't nobody beating you and you beating everybody else up, that's the belt to have because you're a problem. You know what I mean? It ain't about having that green belt. The green belt just means you can afford a better belt. Like it means that okay, instead of driving what out there, what's a car out there? Instead of driving a come on, instead of driving a Jaguar, you're driving a Mercedes Benz. Instead of driving a BMW, you can afford the Mercedes. You know what I'm saying? And not to like pump any brands or anything like that, but everybody knows about cars out here, right? At the end of the day, you got people catching the bus, right? But it's not about it's really not about the belts that you can buy. It's still about whether you can fight, whether you have the moxie, whether you can generate the interest to make money on those belts, and whether you can actually bring money to other broads in that division for the belt, right? Because if you have other broads now trying to come after that belt, they're going to buy in too. They're going to make investments, right? If you can't get the the ultimate, the champion belt, maybe you'll buy the silver belt, right? Maybe you'll buy the other belts, right? Until you can afford to go up against this broad and put some money in to try to get that belt from her. So that's how that works, right? So, um, like I said, pot's bubbling. It's looking good out here. Very pleased with Chantel Cameron's performance. There's been a lot of other fights happening, and in the lower weight divisions and things like that. I really haven't been interested in them because Unfortunately, in women's boxing, I'm not going to bring nothing to y'all that doesn't interest me, and I'm a woman boxer. Okay, so there are other females in other divisions, and they talk about Choi and all of these other people, but if like if they're not performing and if they're not interesting to watch, why the hell I'm gonna drag that shit to my show, right? And try to make y'all interested in that. I'm not, right? There's a lot of sub 10 prospects out here that are cute. Y'all are cute. I look forward to seeing y'all step up, but you got to turn up the come up, right? You have to now take these y'all sub 10s, y'all undercards that fought on the mega match and all of that stuff. Now y'all, this is the time. This is the time. Maybe one of y'all can step up and fight or attempt to fight somebody and go after the 147 division. Okay? This is y'all's time. Let's see what you're made of. Okay? Um, so nobody came in with questions tonight. Thank you, Michael, for chiming in, for stopping in. Okay, and thank y'all for listening to my take on this wonderful match that happened over the weekend. Chantel Cameron versus Jessica McCaskill. Like, subscribe, share, y'all, because some nights are lit, sometimes some nights are quiet with Suge, and that's okay. But I'm always here at 7:30 on a Wednesday night. I'm trying to catch up with my guys on Fridays for the women's boxing segment because I'd love to hear what they would have to say about this match that just happened that I'm talking about. So like, subscribe, share, and I mean, y'all stay safe and have a good weekend until I see y'all next Wednesday. Okay, but till then, bye bye.